It happened on a Tuesday. At 2 in the afternoon, the kind of quiet hour when nothing is supposed to go wrong. I was sitting at my kitchen table with a cold cup of coffee and a stack of invoices when I heard the sound. Not a knock. Not a doorbell. The scrape of a key being forced into a lock that no longer fit it. My body went still before my brain caught up. I'd spent 3 years as a traveling nurse, moving between states, sleeping in unfamiliar rooms, always half alert. That instinct never fully left. I pushed back my chair and walked to the front door. Through the peephole, I saw my brother standing in the hallway with a key in his hand and a look on his face like he owned the place. Because in his mind, he did. Behind him stood my mother, purse pressed to her chest, eyes fixed on the floor, and next to her, my sister-in-law, holding a cardboard box already packed with what looked like kitchen items. I opened the door before he could try the key again. All three froze. "What are you doing?" I asked. My brother looked at me the way he always did when I caught him doing something he'd already justified to himself. Calm. Almost bored. "We need to talk about the house," he said. "You brought boxes," I replied. My mother finally looked up. "Sweetheart, your brother's family needs more space. You're gone half the year anyway. We just thought. You thought you'd let yourself in while I was home," nobody answered. My sister-in-law shifted the box to her other hip. I stepped back and let them in. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to hear exactly what they believed they were entitled to. The house had been mine for 2 years. I bought it outright with savings from 3 years of back-to-back travel nursing contracts in high-cost cities. No mortgage. No co-signer. My name on the deed. Clean and simple. When I first told my family I was buying a place, my mother had cried. Happy tears. I thought. She told the whole church. She made my brother drive her to see it before I'd even finished moving in. What I didn't know then was that she'd already started telling people a different story. My brother sat down at my kitchen table like he'd been invited. He folded his hands, the way he did when he wanted to sound reasonable. "You know I've got 3 kids now," he said. "The apartment is too small. You've got 3 bedrooms here and you're barely using 2 of them. It's my house." I said. "It's family," my mother said softly. Like those 2 things meant the same thing. "I bought this house," I said. "I worked 60-hour weeks in ICUs across 4 states to save that money. My name is on the deed. Mine." My sister-in-law set the box down on my kitchen counter. I looked at it. Mugs. My cabinet handles were still open. "You were already putting things away," I said. She looked at my brother. He looked at my mother. "We talked about this as a family," he said. Everyone agreed it made the most sense. "I'm family," I said. No one talked to me. My mother reached across the table and touched my hand. "You're never here, baby. You're always traveling. The house just sits empty. It's wasteful." I pulled my hand back. "I'm here right now." She blinked. Like that hadn't occurred to her. I asked them to leave. My brother argued for 10 minutes. My mother cried once. My sister-in-law never said a word. I just stood by the counter with her hand near the box. When they finally walked out, I stood in my kitchen for a long time without moving. The coffee had gone completely cold. The invoices were still on the table. I changed the locks that evening. The next morning started normal enough. I went for a run, made breakfast, and called my best friend, Diane, to tell her what happened. She'd known my family for years. She wasn't surprised. "How bad do you think it gets?" I asked. "With your brother," she paused. "Worse than you're expecting." She was right. 3 days later, I got a call from a title company I didn't recognize. The woman on the line was polite, professional, confused. She said she was following up on a refinancing inquiry, submitted the previous week under my name and property address. I hadn't submitted any refinancing inquiry. I asked her to repeat everything slowly. She did. The application had been submitted online, listed me as the owner, and named my brother as a co-applicant seeking to pull equity from the property. It had been flagged because the signatures didn't match the documents on file. I thanked her, hung up, and sat down on the floor, not because I was shocked, because I realized this hadn't been a conversation. It had been a plan. The boxes in my kitchen weren't impatience. They were the second step in something that started before I even knew there was a first. I called Diane back. "You were right," I said. She came over that afternoon. We went through everything together. Old emails, text threads, anything that might tell me how far back this went. That's when I found the message my mother had sent to a group chat I wasn't in. It had been forwarded to me by accident by a cousin who thought I already knew. The message was from 8 months ago, before I'd even closed on the house. It said, "Once she signs, we'll figure out the living situation as a family. She travels so much. She won't need the whole place. Marcus can move in and manage it. It makes more sense for everyone." I read it 3 times. Once she signs, like the purchase had already been decided as a group, like my savings, my contracts. My years of 12-hour shifts in hospitals I barely slept near were just a means to an end they'd already planned around. Diane read it over my shoulder. She didn't say anything. She just went to the kitchen and made tea. I took screenshots of everything and sent them to my own email. Then I called the title company back and formally disputed the inquiry. That evening, my phone started ringing. My mother first. Then my brother. Then a number I didn't recognize that turned out to be my aunt. The family network had activated. My brother had apparently told everyone I was being paranoid and difficult. My aunt left a voicemail saying she hoped I'd think about what really mattered. My mother texted that she was worried about me. I didn't respond to any of them. I just turned the volume off and opened my laptop. I started searching for a real estate attorney. I found one with reviews that mentioned property disputes and family fraud specifically. Her name was Claire Odom. I sent an email at 11 that night and had a response by 7 the next morning. She asked me to come in as soon as possible. She used the word urgent. I didn't sleep well after that. Her office was small and organized. She had the kind of calm that made you feel like whatever was happening had already happened to someone else and been handled. I spread everything on her desk. The title company call, the group chat message, the text from my brother, the timeline. She went through everything quietly. When she finished, she looked up. "The refinancing application being submitted without your knowledge is the core issue," she said. "That's attempted financial fraud. The fact that a signature discrepancy flagged it before it was approved means it didn't succeed. But the attempt itself is documented. What does that mean for me?" "It means you have leverage," she said. "And it means they're more serious about this than a conversation at your kitchen table." She walked me through the steps. We would send a formal cease and desist to my brother, notify the title company, and place a deed restriction flag with the county recorder's office to alert me to any future transfer attempts. She also recommended I pull my credit report immediately and freeze it. I did it from her office on my phone while she printed paperwork. When I got home, there was a voicemail from my mother. She sounded different this time, less soft. The performance of hurt had dropped a little. And underneath it was something harder. "I don't know why you're making this into something legal," she said. "Your brother is your family. His children are your nieces and nephew. If you go down this road, you need to understand what you're choosing." I saved the voicemail and forwarded it to Claire. I also stopped checking social media that day. But not before I saw that my sister-in-law had posted a photo of my house's exterior. The caption said, "Home is where family is. Starting a new chapter together." She had tagged my brother. 42 people had liked it. 2 cousins commented, heart emojis. I took a screenshot, texted it to Claire, and then deleted every social media app from my phone. The week that followed was the hardest. Not because anything dramatic happened, but because of the silence. My brother didn't call. My mother went quiet after that voicemail. The absence of noise was its own kind of pressure. Like everyone was waiting to see if I'd fold before they had to escalate. I didn't fold. I filed paperwork. I documented dates. I made a spreadsheet of every relevant event, in order. With screenshots attached, Diane came over most evenings. She'd bring food and we'd sit at the table and she'd ask about work or some show she was watching. And it helped. It helped to have something that felt normal. On the 9th day, I got a call from a number I almost ignored. It was a woman named Renata Chen, a colleague from my last contract in Seattle. We'd worked the same unit for 8 months, and she'd moved back to the Southeast after her contract ended. She'd heard through a mutual contact what was happening. I'm calling because I think you should know something, she said. About 6 weeks ago, your brother called the hospital you used to work at in Phoenix. He told them he was a family member trying to reach you for an emergency. They didn't give him anything, but they logged the inquiry. I know someone in HR there. She thought you should be aware. I sat down on the couch. Why was he calling them? I asked. I don't know, she said. But that's not where it stopped. He also called the travel nursing agency you use. Tried to get your current contract information. They didn't give it to him either. But they flagged it because he claimed to be your financial representative. The room tilted slightly. I pressed my hand flat against the cushion. Renata, I said. He claimed to be what, your financial representative? She paused. I'm sorry. I didn't know if you knew. I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat there for a long time. Financial representative. Not emergency contact. Not worried, brother. He hadn't been trying to find me. He'd been trying to access my financial profile. If the agency had believed him, he'd have had access to where my paychecks were being sent. I called Claire. She went quiet for a moment after I told her. Then she said, "This changes things." She explained that attempting to misrepresent yourself as someone's financial representative to access their employment or banking records was not just a civil matter. Depending on what he'd said and how far he'd taken it, it could cross into criminal territory. I want you to contact both that hospital and the agency in writing. She said, request their logs of the contact. If they documented it, that becomes part of our file. I did both that afternoon. The agency confirmed the inquiry and sent me a written record within 48 hours. The hospital took longer but came through with a security department note. My brother had given them a false relationship title and claimed I had authorized him to manage my accounts while I was working out of state. He hadn't. The folder on my desk was getting thick. That weekend, I drove to my mother's house for the first time since everything started. Not because I'd softened, because I needed to look at her and say something directly. She opened the door and looked at me the way she always did when she expected forgiveness. Quietly hopeful. A little sad. Like the sadness was supposed to do the work she wasn't willing to do herself. I didn't go inside. I stood in the doorway. I know about the group chat from 8 months ago. I said. I know about the refinancing application. I know about the phone calls to my agency and the hospital. I have documentation of all of it. Her face changed. The sadness was still there, but the hope dropped out. Your brother was just trying to help the family, she said. Help the family with money that belongs to me. I said. She folded her arms. You've always acted like we're strangers. Like we didn't sacrifice for you. Name one thing I owe you. I said quietly. Specifically, one thing. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Because I've been paying my own way since I was 22. I said. I put myself through nursing school. I worked in cities where I didn't know anyone. I saved that money one shift at a time. You don't get to decide what happens to it. Her voice went sharp. You think money makes you better than us? No. I said. I think documentation makes me protected. I left before she could answer. I sat in my car at the end of her street for a few minutes. Not crying. Not shaking. Just breathing. The kind of steady breathing you learn when you've spent years being the calm one in a room where everything is falling apart. Then I drove home. 2 days later. Claire called with news. The county had processed our deed restriction flag. Any attempt to transfer, refinance, or modify the title without a verified in-person signature from me would trigger an automatic hold and a notice to her office. They can't touch it, she said. Not without you physically present and verified. I exhaled so slowly it surprised me. There's one more thing, she said. Based on the documentation, specifically the false financial representative claim to your employer, I've drafted a letter to your brother's address. It outlines what he did, what we have on file, and what the legal consequences of any further contact with your financial accounts or professional contacts would be. I'd like your approval to send it. Send it, I said. She did. 2 hours later, my phone exploded. My brother called 4 times. My mother called twice. My aunt left a voicemail about how legal action against family was a sin. A cousin I hadn't spoken to in years sent a long text about forgiveness and how I was going to regret burning bridges. I read the cousin's text. I didn't reply to any of it. I added every message to the documentation folder and texted Claire that contact had resumed. She replied, "Good. That's useful. Let them talk." Over the following weeks, the noise gradually thinned. My brother's calls stopped after day 3. My mother dropped to 1 text every few days, alternating between guilt and silence. I kept the texts but stopped reading them in real time. I'd check them once in the evening like they were work emails. Note anything important. Forward to Claire if needed. And move on. Diane asked how I was doing one night over dinner. Tired, I said, but not scared. That's different from a month ago, she said. She was right. A month ago, the fear had been the loudest thing in the room. Fear that I'd done something wrong by saying no. That protecting myself was the same as abandoning them. That voice had been trained into me over a long time. It didn't disappear overnight. But it got quieter each day. I chose to hold the boundary anyway. I went back to work that month. Took a contract 2 states away. Before I left, I made sure everything was locked down. New locks. Upgraded security camera at the front door. All documents stored with Claire and backed up in 3 separate places. The deed was clean. My credit was frozen. My agency had flagged my account so that no one could claim representative status without a written form signed in my presence. The first week of the new contract, I came home to my rented room after a long shift, sat on the edge of the bed, and realized I hadn't thought about any of it in 6 hours. That was new. Renata and I had coffee that week. She was working the same hospital on a different floor. We sat in the cafeteria between shifts with bad vending machine coffee, and she asked how everything had settled. It's not over, I said. But it's contained. Contained is winning, she said. I thought about that for a while. In nursing, you learn to understand the difference between solving a problem and managing it. Some things couldn't be cured. They could only be monitored, regulated, kept from getting worse. My family wasn't something I could fix, but I could protect myself from the damage they were willing to do. 3 months later, Claire sent a final summary email. No further legal contact had been made on the property. My brother had not attempted to access any financial records. The cease and desist had held. The county deed restriction remained active. She wrote at the bottom, "You handled this as well as anyone I've seen. You documented everything. acted early, and didn't let emotion override your decisions. That's rare. I printed that email and put it on the refrigerator. Not as a trophy. As a reminder of what calm, quiet, deliberate action actually looked like when it worked. My mother called on a Sunday afternoon. Softer this time. She asked how I was doing. She didn't mention the house, the lawyer, the letters, or my brother. She asked about my work and whether I was eating enough. It felt almost normal. The kind of call that forgets everything ugly ever happened and expects you to do the same. I talked to her for 11 minutes. I kept my voice even. Before we hung up, she said, "I just want things to be okay between us." I said, "I know." That was true. I did know. She wanted things to be okay in the way that meant no one had to apologize. No one had to change. And I'd just quietly put away everything I'd found out. She wanted peace that lived on her terms. I hung up and sat by the window. My apartment in this new city was small and bare and nothing like home. But home was still there. 2 states away. Locked tight with my name on it. Diane texted that evening. "How'd the call go?" I replied, "She wants things to be okay." Didn't say sorry. She wrote back, "Did you expect her to?" I thought about it for a moment. "No." I typed. "But it's still disappointing every time." "That's because you're a decent person." She wrote, "That part doesn't go away. But it also doesn't mean you have to let them back in." I set the phone down and looked at the window. The city outside was dark and ordinary, full of people living lives I knew nothing about. Somewhere in a house with my name on the deed. The locks held. The cameras recorded. The documents sat in a folder with a lawyer who answered her emails at 7 in the morning. I'd built something. They'd tried to walk into it like it was already theirs. And I'd done the one thing no one in my family had expected me to do. I'd been ready. Not with anger. Not with a scene. Just with paperwork. A locked door. And the absolute refusal to let someone else write my name on the line of something I'd earned. I poured a glass of water, set it on the windowsill, and opened my laptop to review the next week's schedule. 12-hour shifts. A new unit. A city I was still learning. Everything ahead of me still felt like work. But it was mine. All of it. Every shift. Every signature. Every locked door. Mine.